You're here on Gridiron, joined by Larry Kelly. I'm Ron Poniewasz. And, Larry, I don't keep a running tally of how many games I've covered in football, basketball, what have you. Like, if you remember, Deuce Skorsinski always had a running total.
Yeah. Yes, he did.
I covered a game Friday night in Olsh at Union. I don't know that I've ever seen a game like it before, and I don't know if I'll ever see a game like it again. And I've said this before many times on here that I give a lot of credit to coaches. They must go through an awful lot through the season, and it's not just dealing with parents and practice schedules and things. It's just the rigors of the games and how they go, and the ups and downs and the ebbs and flows. And Union, for those that may or may not know, scored 30 points in the first quarter. With 1:57 left in the quarter, they were up 30-7, and they were just dominating Olsh. Union could do nothing wrong. Olsh could do nothing right. Olsh's first play from scrimmage after the opening kickoff, the center snapped the ball a good 1.5 or 2 feet over the quarterback's head, and Union jumped on it and recovered it. And next play, Braylon Thomas was in the end zone. Union, I believe, had 3 plays, their first 3 plays, all of them were Braylon Thomas touchdowns. And if you don't know by now, the game ended up being tied 30-30 after regulation. Union scored to make it 36-30 in overtime, and then eventually lost 37-36. Larry, the question is, how difficult are these kind of losses? And Union's had 3 straight weeks where they've blown leads. How does that wear on a coach's mind, a player's mind? Explain some of that, if you would.
Well, I guarantee you the coach doesn't sleep very well after a game like that because you second guess yourself. Look, I've second guessed myself after 9th grade basketball games when I'm not so sure anybody cares if you win or lose. I certainly lost sleep after we lost the state championship game 8-7. Thinking what I could have done differently. So it weighs on the coach. I could tell you that, it does. It's a heavy burden because it's not so much about you as it is you want to win for the kids. You want to give the players an opportunity to be successful. And you always look back after a defeat, especially one like Union took when the game looked to be over, and say, what could I have done differently? What should I have done differently to give my team a better opportunity to win? So I don't care how long you've been coaching, and I don't care at what level. It weighs on the coach. It does. I've always said this, whether as a coach, as a player, as a trial lawyer, defeat is a much better teacher than victory. Because you learn so much more after a defeat as to, how you could have maybe altered the outcome. As for the team, yeah, momentum is a huge part in sports. It is. It's a huge part. Mm-hmm. You lose a game like that Friday night where it looked like the game was over. It's pretty tough to get your pads on and go out and play the next week. Momentum is huge within the game and within the season. So, once you get it rolling and you start winning games like that, then great things start happening. When the players start believing, I think that's the job of any coach. I want my players to believe. I want them to believe that we're the best team on the field in every game that we play. Because if they believe it, there's a pretty good chance they're going to play like it. But when you start losing games like this one here, it's pretty tough also to keep the belief system up. So it weighs on a coach, it weighs on the players. Momentum is a big, big factor in any sport, in any game.
Yeah, that game was Murphy's Law on both sides of the field. First quarter, like I said, Olsh could do nothing right. Literally couldn't do anything right. Turnovers, penalties, and Union could do nothing wrong. I think, like I said, the first 3 plays from scrimmage were all touchdowns to Braylon Thomas. And after that, I mean, 10:50, what would it be, 10:03, I believe, for 10 minutes and 3 seconds, they were rolling, and they literally could not do anything until overtime. They had a touchdown called back at the end of regulation. As a matter of fact, Tyler Staub scored that touchdown on a bootleg around to the left, hit the left corner of the end zone, and they called a clipping penalty. And I can tell you that the Union coaches up in the box were livid about it. And Stacy told me after the game, he says, if it was a clip, then it was a clip. But if it wasn't a clip, then that's a shame, because, you know, we lost the football game. And Murphy's Law kind of took over again right at the end, because when it was tied 30-all, Union got the ball, and they went, I think it was 7:38 left in the game, and they went down to the 17-yard line of Olsh, and they were moving the ball well. 2 sacks and a short gain ended up making it 4th and 38 from about midfield. And they punted, and Olsh fumbled the punt. And now Union's got 1st and goal from the 4-yard line. 4-yard line, and they couldn't get in. They had a penalty, I think it was. They had that touchdown called back on a penalty. It's just whatever could go wrong did go wrong for Union, and you could just automatically feel so terrible for.
Well, again, you're talking about huge momentum swings, and I'm guessing that when Olsh made their comeback, I bet there was a few turnovers involved that helped them, you know, catch up in that game. Did Union turn the ball over a few times?
I know they did not throw an interception. Staub had 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. I don't know if there was a turnover or not. There may have been, but I can't remember. I can't remember, honestly. But the other question I'll ask you, Larry, is, and I'm kind of torn on this. I used to side with Bill Parcells. He always said, "You are what your record says you are." Well, I'm going to look at Union's record, and it says that they're 3-4. And after they beat Rochester, they were 3-1. The next week, they blew a 16-0 halftime lead and lost 22-16. The next week after that, they were up 6-0 in the first quarter. The opponent went up 7-6. Union ended up taking a 22-13 lead, 2-score lead into the fourth quarter, and lost, I believe it was 34-22, and then last week. And they've had injuries, they've had contact tracing and all that kind of stuff. And this is a program that, as you know, doesn't have many more kids in mid-20s every year. And the old adage, next man up. Okay, I understand next man up, but the next man up isn't always going to be as talented as a Jackson Clark or a Tyler Staub or, you know, anybody that they have on the line. They're just not. And I think that's what they're going through right now, is those numbers games and trying to play anybody that they have. And, you know, they just kind of run out of gas in that third and fourth quarter.
Well, I'll say this much. You know, they lost 2 of those games when they were down 6 or 7 players. Mm-hmm. And when you are at a small school, listen, next man up is not going to be as good as your starter. You know, it's different at the North Alleghenies of the world and in schools like that where, you know, they have 800 kids in their graduating class and they got 75 kids on their football team. And, you know, the junior is a half a step behind the senior starter. When you're at small schools where you're graduating 75 students, you know, you're not going to have that kind of depth. And again, I agree with Bill Parcells. Your record, you are who your record says you are, but it might be the exception here with Union because, again, I know they played 2 games down 6 or 7 starters because of injuries and COVID and other issues. So I think they're a little bit better than what the record says they are.
Absolutely. When I became an attorney, I chose to stay here because my friends and neighbors needed a lawyer they can count on. I believe that if you're hurt on the job, you shouldn't have to go it alone, especially if your employer or the insurance company tries to bully you. You can count on me to get you the workers' compensation benefits that you deserve. Even if it gets rough, I'm not going anywhere. I'll stand my ground right here where I've always been. I'm Larry Kelly, and I'm a Newcastle guy.